Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I wish to express my sincere thanks to the Muslim World League, Rabita, for inviting me to speak on this unique occasion of counter-terrorism and sectarianism. Today, I will present the one form of terrorism case in Burma, Myanmar, or country known as Myanmar, the form of terrorism known as racial terrorism. The racial terrorism against Rohingya Muslims in Burma. This racial terrorism is a serious issue faced by Rohingya Muslims in Burma. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, as you know, terrorism has so many forms. There are terrorism by individual groups. There are terrorism by individuals. There are terrorism by state-sponsored terrorism. In Burma, the Muslim community, particularly the Rohingya Muslims, the terrorism they are facing now is unique. It is not only a terror imposed by Buddhist extremists, as well as some part of the previous government, which was ruled by a military regime in Burma. Rohingya Muslims, as Your Excellencies know, the Rohingya Muslims are indigenous to Arakan. They have been in Arakan for many centuries with deep roots in Arakan. They are facing terror by the extreme Buddhists because of ethnicity of the Rohingya people, as well as because of their Muslim faith. Although terrorism, racial terrorism in Arakan is not new, it began way back in early 20th century, particularly in 1942. There was a huge wave of terror from Buddhist extremists against Rohingya Muslims that has displaced many Rohingya people from southern Arakan, has forced Rohingya population from southern Arakan to northern Arakan. That's why now the population is heavily concentrated in the northern Arakan. About 3 million Rohingya in Arakan. Only 1.5, about half of them are still there. Another half of them left the country because of violence and terror against them by the Buddhist extremists and the government forces. They are scattered now in Indonesia. Aceh, you know, there's a Rohingya refugees. There are many, nearly 100,000 in Malaysia, Thailand. There are nearly 500,000 in Bangladesh, official and unofficial refugees from terror. And there are nearly 400,000 in Saudi Arabia alone, and Pakistan has another 500,000. So Rohingya people are scattered throughout the world because of this terror against them by the Buddhist extremists and the government. Now, although this terror has started way back during the British colonial time, the situation had got worse after the military government took the power in 1962. The form of racial terrorism by Buddhist extremists has transformed to another phase after 1962, where military dictatorship has ruled the country. Government has developed a policy targeting Rohingya Muslims, violating major human rights, revoking their citizenship, putting restrictions of all kind on them, freedom to worship, free to marry, freedom of movement, free to own land, health care, access to health care, and many other basic human rights have been denied to them. Although Rohingya people were the citizens of Burma, recognized as an ethnic minority by previous government, and they held the full citizenship, class 1 citizenship, since the independence, made prior to independence, and like any other ethnic minorities in Burma. So after 1962, when the government has instituted an ethnic cleansing policy against Rohingya people, that policy has served as a catalyst for more violence, more terror against Rohingya by Buddhist extremists. As you know, because of that policy, the government revoking the citizenship of full citizenship of Rohingya, they are facing serious human rights violations and other issues today. There are waves of violence took place against Rohingya by Buddhist extremists, racial and religious terrorism. In 2012, there was a landmark in this terror against Rohingya people. The 2012 violence has caused so much displacement, so much loss of lives, so many loss of lives in Rohingya. Now, that has resulted in over 440,000 Rohingya people in displaced camps, IDP camps in Burma, inside Arakan. And another several thousands, nearly 100,000 has left. Boat people, we have seen boat people crisis, people coming to Aceh, people coming to Malaysia and Thailand. They are trapped in human trafficking. They have became, there are slavery, sex slavery, there are labor issues, sex trade against Rohingya people. So that's the situation they are faced. These are all part of the racial and religious terrorism, terror by Buddhist extremists as well as the government. I must say that all the Buddhist people in Burma are not violent people. In fact, Buddhist religion is a religion of peace. But there are a small fragment of radical extremist Buddhists, especially monks, has mobilized the community to attack Muslims, to attack mosques, to attack madrasas, religious schools, and others. They are the one who is causing this such a big problem for Rohingya people, supported by previous government, armed forces, military government. But still, there are a significant number of Burmese populations, Buddhist population, who want peace in the country. The violence, waves of violence after 2012 did not stop, and 2013 there were violence against them, terror against them, terrorizing Rohingya families so that they would leave the country from their own homeland of Arakan. 2014. So these are waves of violence taking place on the pretext of false pretext by the government that Rohingya people are not from there. Rohingya people are illegal immigrants from Bangladesh. They are the false accusation. That's the pretext they are using against Rohingya to attack them, to terrorize them. These are the situations, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, are well aware of the terror, religious terrorism, racial terrorism against Rohingya. And this is not just race, it's also because they are Muslims. They want to eliminate Islam from Arakan. Only way they can eliminate Islam, make purely Buddhist state, if they can remove the Rohingya, eliminate the Rohingya from their state of Arakan. So we need to counter this racial and extremist terrorism. How do we counter? The approach to solve this problem is also unique. We have various speakers have spoke about global terrorism in many parts of the world, and there are defined groups, non-defined groups, various groups, known groups, unknown groups. It has become challenged to counter the terrorism around the world because of all the groups are identified, their location is moving, things like that. So there's a lot of gray area in this global terrorism. But in Burma, the racial terrorism, religious terrorism is more defined. More defined, it can be handled directly because we know who are doing it. We know who are there, who they are, where they are. It is part of the government policy as still existing today. Discrimination against Rohingya people, human rights violations against Rohingya people, and Buddhist extremist groups, as you know, Mahabharata and other extremist groups are conducting this violence, terror against Rohingya. So once you know the people who are committing this violence and the government policy that catalyzing, serving as a catalyst for this terror, it is much easier to handle, to counter this, because we can directly confront the evil who are committing the violence against Rohingya Muslims. So the solution is how we can handle this. The solution is directly we have to, international community, Muslim Ummah, and the entire international community has to deal directly with the government of Burma, because that's the central issue. The government, because of the government policy, has instigated all this terror against Rohingya people. Now we know that the previous government, the military has ruled the country for nearly half a century, nearly 50 years. And then previously we had a government, although elected government in Burma, it was military government. Now we have new government in Burma that is showing, that appears to be showing some interest to solve the Rohingya issue. That's different from the previous government. So international community need to pressure this present government, led by NLD, National League for Democracy, to solve this issue. Then we can go step by step in the process to counter this terror against Rohingya people. The government of Myanmar, a new government of Myanmar, has made some significant steps, a smaller step, but important step forward to addressing these issues. That now, most important point is we need to sustain the pressure. Current government of Myanmar is apparently showing interest to solve this issue because of international pressure. So we need to sustain the pressure. We appeal to the international community to pressure the Myanmar government, as well as we appeal the new government of Myanmar to stop the present verification process. Verification process is turning back the clock. The verification process, what's happening today is the government is trying to naturalize Rohingya people who have been already full citizens of Burma. So this is a reverse process. And Myanmar government must stop the verification process of Rohingya people and honor their NRC card that Rohingya people have, National Registration Certificate. Rohingya people has class 1 bona fide citizenship since independence and private independence, and that NRC card has to be honored. NRC has to be honored, and based on that NRC, Rohingya people must be given all their rights. And Myanmar government needs to mobilize its police force, its all armed forces against those who are violating the rule of law, attacking Muslims, attacking Rohingya people. So that's why we ask international community to mount the pressure, to sustain the pressure on the government of Burma, Myanmar new government, which seems to be moving forward with a small step at a time to address this issue. If we can sustain the pressure, Myanmar government would move further toward the peace and bring the peace and stability outcome, and Rohingya people and all other ethnic minorities in Burma can live in peace. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To other countries, coming to Malaysia, and all this human trafficking, all what's happening to them, what has been done to stop that what's happening to Rohingya? This is a really good question. This is a very complex situation made by the government of Burma. The new government of Burma has just came to power this year, early this year. But past 5 years, when the violence takes place, terror takes place against Rohingya people, that was the military government. Nothing was done during that government, of military government, and prior to the dictatorship, because the government itself has caused this problem with policy against Rohingya people, violating human rights, their basic human rights, ethnic cleansing, taking away their citizenship. So the very government who has committed this terror, we don't believe that the government, that particular government, will be serious to solve this issue. So they have created the problem. So what they did, when international pressure came from all sides, they deceived international community. They have been very deceptive. When they sit down, when they go to United Nations, I've heard the government delegation, United Nations General Assembly, United Nations Human Rights Council talking about this issue. They present a very rosy picture. Oh, this is the Burma's national interest. We need to solve this problem. We have to find a solution. They will put a very rosy picture just to pacify the international community, to just silence the international community, and they go back and at the same violations again. So they did not have any intention. Remember, think about this, brothers and sisters. The president of Burma, previous president of Burma, Tenzin, has said, these people, Rohingya, are national security threat. They need to be moved, transported to some other third countries. That president said that. How can they be ever interested to solve this problem? So what they did, they want to sustain this problem for Rohingya, and people will continue to leave. That's what their intention was. That's why nothing happened. It could not be stopped because the government policy was a major barrier. That's question number one. This brother has asked about Aung San Suu Kyi. And she was elected, although she is not a president. There's our party. She is the foreign minister. She is a state councillor. She is like a president. Also, there's a sitting president there, but she is formulating a lot of policies. Aung San Suu Kyi, we have to be fair. Aung San Suu Kyi has not done much. There are reasons for that. Only 1 year now, less than 1 year, she has been in power. So in a bigger scenario, in the greater context, it is too soon. We have to recognize the intricacy of current political climate in Burma, the sensitivity issue of Rohingya. Aung San Suu Kyi, when she needs to want to make positive step forward, she needs to make a careful step. So there will be no backlash. Remember, Aung San Suu Kyi has won, NLD has won the election, but the military is still in good control power. They are 25% in the cabinet, military, okay? Their military has still been clout. It is not purely NLD running their majority, their great majority, but military has still power in there. So that will slow down. We know there will be opposition coming from military if she wants to win state. But to her credit, most recently she made a small step forward because she felt that the term Rohingya and Bengali are causing polarization in the community. So she talked about not to battle with this term, Rohingya or Bengali, whatever may be. She warned her own countrymen and government not to call Rohingya Bengali. That's the first time happened. When a military government used to brand Rohingya people as illegal Bengali immigrants. So there's a dramatic departure in that context that she is asking her countrymen not to use the term Bengali because it will turn to violence. That's one. Recently, government has also warned against hate speech by monks, not to engage in hate speech. That incite the violence. 3 weeks ago, the Chief Minister of Yangon Division has also spoken about Mabata, the religious extremist group, that questioning the legitimacy of Mabata group, although they have already a Buddhist Sangha group, organization, so they are questioning whether Mabata will be needed because they already have another one. So these kind of small steps are indicators of maybe they are interested. We want to give Aung San Suu Kyi some time. It may not be popular, but we have to remember this happened over 50 years. So we do want to expect to solve this problem overnight very quickly, but it could be solved. But again, Aung San Suu Kyi needs to be supported by international community, engaged by international community, so that she can move forward. We want to ask President, because military is power, military involvement in this is indicated by something I want to say. The verification process that I indicated earlier. The verification process was initiated by the military government as part of the notorious Rakhine Action Plan devised by military. In that Rakhine Action Plan has this naturalization of Rohingya, verification of Rohingya. You know how serious this verification process is? This is so damaging to our community. It is Rohingya people can be murdered. The community can be eliminated if through the verification process, which again, I want to emphasize, they are trying to make bona fide class 1 citizen Rohingya, bona fide citizen, first class citizenship Rohingya to naturalization. Go backward. You cannot naturalize a bona fide citizen. You can naturalize only somebody who came to the country from somewhere else. So that's why Aung San Suu Kyi's government right now is engaged in this verification process, maybe because of pressure from the military. So this is what we need to, the international community need to put pressure onto Aung San Suu Kyi to stop this verification process and honor NRC, National Registration Certificate, that the citizenship of Rohingya that was given by the previous government's legitimate government of Burma after independence. So this is what the Aung San Suu Kyi situation is. So we want to give her time, and if she continues to make a small step forward, she needs to bring the stability and peace to our country. Then things will be much easier. About Aung San Suu Kyi, what has OIC and international community and ASEAN has done? That was the third question.
Last question, Professor.
That was last question, right?
Last question from
Yes. I need to make clear about ASEAN and OIC, because Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei, these are ASEAN. It is very important for us. So let me answer that question about ASEAN. Like His Excellency said, there are non-interference policy of ASEAN Charter. That is a problem for us. But this is not non-interference in internal matters. You are dealing with refugees in Aceh. Malaysia is dealing with refugees in Kuala Lumpur and other parts. Is it internal affairs anymore? This is not internal affairs. It has affected your country, your community. So you need to deal with the Burma telling Myanmar government that this is not internal matter. You are safe. It's becoming global. United States is involved, United Nations involved, and Middle East, OIC. This is global scale. It's risen to global scale. The sister's question, last question was that the vision of why international community always blame Muslims to be terrorists, how Muslim can be a victim. Okay, that was your question, right? Now, international community is getting better, okay? Because so much publicity by the corporate media, such as CNN, many others, covering Daesh, Iraq, Syria, so much. So international audience will be more focused on that. Because of the press coverage, biased press coverage, less coverage on Muslims becoming victim of terrorism, less coverage. That's why international community doesn't know as much that in fact, if you go to Middle East, terrorism, Muslims are the primary victims. More Muslims are killed by the terror group than non-Muslims. Yeah. You look at statistics. So, but what news media is not doing is not conveying that message to international community. People will know that victims are also the Muslims. Rohingya issues are not well covered by Daesh or Iraq, Syria. They were covered, so that's why international community thinks that way. But things are getting better. These kind of events are very important. Now, this event goes to the press. What is being covered in this event will be transmitted to the audience, and people will come to know more about Muslims becoming victims of terrorism. So these are the platforms we need more often to convey this message to international community. Your last question was about the definition of terrorism, opinion about terrorism. You know, you look at the dictionary, you look at the definition of terrorism very loose. Even Wikipedia or any other dictionary or information, any other reference you look, terrorism, the term terrorism is not well defined because it is great, because it is done by different kind of people. Government, in Burma, it is a state-sponsored terrorism. Okay, in Daesh, it is a group of people politically motivated. They are individuals, self-radicalized individuals, like in France, like in San Bernardino. That's other kind of terrorist individual. So you see how many variations that terrorism has, so that you cannot define terrorism clearly. What is it? But generally, it's accepted that this imposition on certain group of people by one group to impose their political ideology. And that goes to Arkan in Burma as well. The ideology of purity in race and religion. That is the growing ideology in Burma, that Burma should be, Burma, Myanmar should be a purely Buddhist nation, purely Buddhist race. So that's the nationalism. So purity, that philosophy, that ideology, they are using that ideology to eliminate Muslims and Rohingya people.